Today I get to catch up with Crystal Holly Baker. Is it Baker, right?
Baker, yes.
Yes. Right, okay. See, I'm still getting used to all the married names. In
Oh,
my
I
mind,
know.
you just graduated from high school and you're still Crystal Holly. But anyway, I'm so excited to get to catch up with Crystal today. Um, we we see each other's posts on social media, but it's so fun to talk
Yes.
and see what you're up to. So thank you for taking time to be with us today. And we'll just start with you sharing a little bit about your high school experience here at Marian.
Sure. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you. So good to catch up with you. You were, I think of you often because so silly. Well, I do think of you often, but I probably shouldn't say this while being recorded, but a lot of, when you have to do your passwords to all your different places and they ask for security questions, one of the questions is always, who's your favorite high school teacher? And so it's always Miss Hutchins. And so I think of you every time I forget my password. I'm like, oh, I wish she's doing well. So we moved to, I graduated in 2004, which I was counting up, sadly, was like 16 years ago, which really
Crazy.
did a number on me. So I actually moved to Marian when I was a sophomore, and my sister was a senior, so she had it a little bit rougher than I did. But it was actually a really good fit for me. We kind of, it was like the end of my sophomore year, and we were coming from a small school in Virginia that had like 500 kids, and I'm sure it's much bigger now, but when I moved to Marian, I remember them saying they had like 1,200 kids.
No, that's
So
about
like,
yeah.
So it was a big culture shock for me and my sister because it was much larger. I remember being like really confused in the hallways and like not knowing where to go. And but anyway, it ended up, I really enjoyed my time there. I made really good friends, still for people that I'm good friends with today, and really good relationships with them. And I just have a lot of fun memories. I think that's one thing that, I don't know if regret, that's kind of a strong word, but I would, if I, you always say if you could go back, I think I would be involved a little bit more in some stuff. I was heavily involved in my church world, and so I think that kind of kept me from, which was fine. But I did do some like business clubs and things like that. And probably my fondest memories were, dances and homecoming courts and like, just sharing all that with, close friends. And we had a really good group of girls that we all hung out together. And those are just probably my fondest memories. So we just had a really good time.
It probably was harder to jump in coming in, towards the end of your sophomore year a little bit to the clubs and everything. But
Yes.
you were definitely well liked and, and had, like you said, a good core group of friends.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, I know looking back, I didn't know like that you had just moved. Because I'm trying to think what year you would have been in my accounting class. Was it your senior year?
Actually, I think it was my senior year. Yeah.
So see, I don't think I knew. I think you were just always here. So
Yes.
but yeah, being involved in your church group is still a good way to
Yes.
connect. And one thing that is probably different than when you were here, our Friends in Christ group has done a pretty good job of working with the local churches. Like they will host fifth quarters for us. Like we host it,
Oh,
but
that's cool.
so we have a fifth quarter after every home football game except for homecoming because there's so much.
Yeah.
And then we try to do 2 or 3 Friday night basketball games too. So
Yeah, that's fun.
we have local student ministers who will come in and speak at our meetings and do our lunch Bible studies with us.
Yeah.
So things like that are still going on. So that's yeah. So what happened to Crystal after she graduated? Walk us through what's been
Sure.
going on the last 16 years.
16 years. Oh my goodness, so much. So after graduation, I kind of, I had a plan, but it's funny how, we all make plans and they all, I've learned to be adaptable. I've learned to adapt to a lot of changes. And honestly, my parents they're still in the ministry, they're pastors. And so we moved a lot as a kid. And that really, I think, helped prepare me to be a little bit adaptable. It kind of had that personality anyway, where I could go with the flow, but I was never really hugely bothered when we moved. Like, it was always sad, you know, to leave friends, but it is actually, I always kind of thought it was a new adventure. And most of the time it always worked out better for me. You know, I specifically, the move to Marion was a really good move for me, just where I was at in my life. And the friend choices that I was making. And it was just kind of like a new start for me. So then after high school, I stayed local. I stayed living at home. I had no desire to like move out on my own and like pay
We
rent.
a lot already, so I mean.
Yeah, I was like, why? Like, I literally I was like, why do I want to have to pay for things when I don't have to? So I stayed home. I started at John A. and Johnny Logan, and I even carpooled with Micah, you know, with some close friends. It was kind of just like, we all kind of still stayed together, our high school group. And then my family moved. I was about to actually graduate, I think, with my associates, and my family moved. And so I moved with them. I actually kind of took a little bit of a break and worked for a while. And, you know, we ended up going away to school. And then when my family moved again, a couple of years later, I moved with them. That was in Georgia. And so I ended up just finishing my degree at a state school there. But the whole time, I knew, even in high school, I kind of knew I had two passions. I knew I wanted to be in ministry. I knew that I wanted to marry someone and kind of fulfill that calling. But I also had a love for business. Even as a little girl, as silly as it was, I always like played office and played business. So I knew I wanted to do something. And in high school, I tried to take some electives for that and focused a business administration degree in college. So that's what I ended up graduating with, was a business administration degree. And through that, I worked some while I was in college. I did a lot of retail and kind of wanted to get into management and thought that would be the route that I was going to go. But that was really hard to juggle that schedule while my other passion was, you know, ministry, which is on Sundays, well, every day, but, you know, Sundays are your big days. And so it just kind of worked out while I was kind of in my latter part of graduating, or latter part of my college years. Jake had moved, my husband now, but we had met when we were 16, and he actually came to senior prom with me at Marion. So it was super cool because, you know, it was us and, you know, our good friends, and it ended up being in each other's wedding. So that was really cool. But he ended up moving down, and we, you know, started dating and got married. And I actually finished school probably that first year after we were getting married, which was really hard. I definitely encourage finishing. I mean, people can do anything. People can do anything that they want and put their minds to, but it is a lot harder when you get married and have a family. So, so it's a little bit more challenging. So I finished, I think had been married maybe a year. And from then we were already in ministry working at a church. And so I just kind of, because my degree was so general, I kind of was able to be flexible, I guess, in where I worked. And the adaptability, you know, I was able to kind of adapt. I kind of dabbled in a little bit of different things. But I actually kind of looking back, actually liked that, because it kind of really helped me know like what I liked and what I didn't like. I worked in sales at as kind of like a sales event coordinator type at a local business when we were living in Illinois, and that was fun. And definitely learned, I think at that job, you know, every job introduced me to a little bit more of the business world. And that job really introduced me to what sales is. And it's not just, you know, it's more than just making a sale. It's, you know, marketing and trying to go, you know, all the stuff before, during, and after. And so I learned a lot. I was kind of exposed to a lot in that job. And then from then I kind of wanted, I think when we started having a family, like, you know, you want something, your priorities do change a little bit, and you want something a little bit more steady, a little bit more And so one of probably the jobs that every job I feel like I've walked away with something and learned a lot. But one of the last jobs was I was a manager at like a early preschool. And that was really cool because I did a lot of education type, but I also did a lot of business type. So I was kind of able to join both passions. I mean, it was hard work, it was preschools are hard work, it was a lot of hard work, but you learned a lot. It was hard work at the end of the day where you were like, man, it was a good day. I learned a lot. And then that brought us to here to where I work at a school as for the county here, school records, and it's quite different now than what I think it even usually is because we're all working from home. So we're all on a little bit of a learning curve. But because I've only been, at this job about 5 months, so I'm still like, learning a lot, but as we all are, it's kind of a good time to be new because we're all learning and we're all kind of learning now, we're all become super awesome at Zoom. And I'm like, I literally have like Kim files, like that I'm working from at home and like all this kind of stuff that is not really normal. So it's kind of a good time to learn but I think too, something that just being flexible has really like all of the things that have happened in my life, whether it's things that I've planned or not planned or whatever, that's really helped me to be flexible in my jobs, and I think that that's a big thing that you kind of have to learn, is to, your job may say it's going to look like this, but a lot of times it's different and you just have to learn to be flexible.
Yeah. Okay. So there was only one point in the whole thing that it snagged, and it was when you said you did. So you work for a school?
I do. I work for a school and I'm the registrar there.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So
a lot with like records and the families, and our school is a different dynamic too because not last school year, but I think the school year before, they recently rezoned. I don't know if it was just our school or all over because I wasn't here. But so it went from a school of like, it's an elementary school. So it went from a school, I think, of like 300 or 400 to like over 600. So like their staff doubled, their kids doubled, and so it was already, when I came in, it was already at like a, we're all still learning. And then of course now we're all like definitely learning because we're all at home.
yes. Well, without a doubt, the business management degree is something that is helpful with what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I can see how that would be very helpful in ministry positions too, because you're, even in that line of work, you have budgets to manage, you have people
Right.
to manage, you have projects that have to be managed.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing applies with being in the position that you're in today. So it's definitely one of those things that can be cross industrial. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
But
no, I totally agree.
Professions for sure.
Yeah. And I think, it's funny that you say that. I definitely agree. And one of the last places that we were working, I did, it's funny, never say never, because I had said I would never do kids ministry and I ended up having to do it, which was great. I ended up loving it. But for that season, but I, one task I had to do was we went from like to like a volunteer basis. So like I had to manage a schedule and manage people. And I was just kind of like, man, this is what I did in like my work life. Like I managed people, like I managed the schedule, and and it was constantly changing and constantly, and I've done scheduling before in like past jobs. And so I was like, gosh, it's what I'm doing right now, so it's very true. I think whenever I picked my degree, I feel like it was very challenging because you had like, it wasn't just business administration, you had like management and you had HR and HR management, and there were so many different, and I was kind of confused. So I was like, I don't know. So I kept it management, thinking it was super general. And I think it's probably been helpful because it's kind of helped me be able to have a wide variety, which for us has worked because of how we've moved so much. It's been really helpful that I've been able to be flexible and work different jobs.
Yeah. So I obviously I hear flexibility in there as an important skill, but what are some of the other skills that you think are important or that help someone be successful in their careers?
Um, I think, I know this is a total mom answer, but like I genuinely think like your attitude on life, like I kind of said this earlier, I think, and I even heard someone else that you had interviewed, and I was watching it and they had kind of alluded to this too. I think it's great to make plans. And some of my best friends, like I would watch some of my best friends and growing up and how they were just very driven and and they had a plan and like their plan was falling into place. And it just seemed like my plan never really worked out. Like I had a plan and it was just kind of like, it never really followed what I wanted it to follow. But I think that's kind of part of our story. We've walked down some roads that we never thought we would have to walk down. And we just, through all of life's changes, it really helped mold us and it really helped. And I think your outlook on life and your positivity can really affect it, whether it's a huge life change or if it's just an employee that's difficult to work with, a coworker, and I think that that's, I think we've all been there, we've all been there where, it's currently the coworker is my husband because we're working from home, but no, I'm just kidding. But, but we have, we all have those, I think just that's the number one thing that comes to mind is just, positivity, and also being flexible. And then I think always being willing to learn, I think we never get to the point where we've learned it all. I know I definitely haven't.
No,
And
no one does. If they say they've learned it all, then they haven't.
Right. And I think that was one thing I kind of tried to keep perspective of, and it was always hard because sometimes you think and you don't, or you think you're gonna be like go in and like rock the job and like be totally amazing, and then like there were some days on a specific job that I had, I would go on my lunch break and in my car and just like talk to Jake and like cry because I was like, I just can't do it. Like, I'm not making an impact. Like, I can't do it. And of course, thank God he was always very encouraging and just kind of said what I needed to hear. And sometimes it was tough love. Sometimes it was like, well, you don't have an option, and sometimes we were forced to just, keep with it and work with it. But it always makes you a better person and it always makes you stronger. And most of the time you learn from it. And I think also there's always going to be mistakes that you make in your job. Each job that I've had, I still have very humiliating mistakes that I've made. And to this day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that, and I'm like embarrassed and like no one even is like thinking about it. And I'm just still humiliated over it. So I think just kind of cutting yourself some slack and learning from the mistakes, it's okay to make mistakes. We're not perfect. And I think when I became a parent, like that perspective helped me, like your kid is not perfect, but like it never changes how you feel about them. So I think that helped open my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, attitude is always a game changer. Attitude for high school kids. You have two kids that are struggling with the same concept or, a project, and the attitude can have a huge impact on the outcome.
Absolutely.
Whether they're willing to accept help, how they accept help, all those things.
Yeah.
I tell my students all the time, you may not realize it, but people are always watching. And,
Yeah.
Teachers get phone calls from employers in the community like, hey, do you know this kid? I'm thinking about hiring him. They may have not put that teacher down as a reference, but it's someone that's, someone else knows. And I try to remind attitudes, the way you treat people, those things you're always on, people are always observing that. So I agree with you 100% that can make and being adaptable, and again and again in our interviews, fear of failure, like overcoming fear of failure has come up in that we are going to all make mistakes,
right?
And like just, learning how to bounce back from those things. that's huge. So
Yeah. And I think that's that's especially when you're when you're the type of person that's harder on yourself than you are other people. Um, you cut everyone else every slack in the world, but when it's you, you're like, it's unacceptable. And so I think just kind of learning to have the same grace on yourself in any job. I think that could apply to any job, because I think every job has this aspect of hardness and challenges.
absolutely.
So,
I feel
and then
like oh, go
oh,
ahead.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I feel like you've really woven in the skills that are important with advice, because that was kind of going to be my next question
Yeah.
is what advice would you give if you were in my classroom today, my empty classroom today, I'm talking to students, or, if you could talk to Crystal back when she was a junior or senior in high school, what advice would you give?
Um, there's a lot of people I would tell myself to stay away from, but no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I think one of some practical advice is Jake and I always, because we're blessed to be able to work with teenagers and work with students, and we love it. It helps us feel young. I don't think we are as cool as we think we are, but it helps us. It helps. I hope so. It helps us feel young, and it helps us kind of reminisce, and they laugh at our stories and they laugh at our, but it helps us kind of keep our youth alive. But one thing that practically that we always kind of suggest, and again, this is not hard and fast because everyone's life is different, but I took several breaks in my college life. Some of breaks from school. Some of them were needed and some of them were just by choice. Jake took several breaks, and that's one thing that we kind of would probably pass on to students is, I don't think it's bad to take breaks, and sometimes you have to, and sometimes you don't have a choice. And if that's, financially or whatever, and then don't, it will be fine. Everything will work out and it will be fine. However, we encourage people to finish while you have the motivation to do it, because it does get harder. It does get a little bit more challenging the older you get. It's not impossible. Jake is still finishing his bachelor's. He's obviously got his associates and he's licensed, and he's kind of took a break to work on his, ministry licensing. But at the same time, once you have kids, and I mean, it's definitely possible, but it's a lot more challenging. So while you have the motivation and you don't have as many responsibilities, we always try to encourage to stay if you can. But I think at the same time, if it doesn't work out, just know it will. I think that we've kind of had to have that outlook on life, that life will throw you curveballs. It's not perfect. I think I thought life was going to be this perfect thing. And, and I think too, don't judge your career or your life or anything like that on anyone else. It's really funny, especially now with social media. You can see one little square of my room and I'm like, oh, that looks nice, my sign. But if I showed you the rest of my room, it's like my life. It's like craziness, and there's clothes and there's toys and it's just life. And so I think just don't, and that's something that I struggled with as a teenager, and I still struggle with, and maybe it's because I'm a girl, I don't know, but just comparing myself to other people, and whether that's your looks or your life, or how things fold out, just there's a reason that things don't work out. I mean, I believe, that there's a reason that sometimes things work out differently for different people. And so I think just don't compare yourself with others.
Yeah. Well, I believe we're all created uniquely, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses, and our paths aren't going to look the same,
Right.
But it doesn't mean that it can't be a good path,
Right.
or can't be a lot of good things that come from the journey that you take. And so I agree with you. I just try to encourage my kids to figure out what they love, and then from there, build a career around that, and it may not look the same for someone else that even loves the same thing, but that's that's okay. But you're right. Social media is a wonderful thing in that we can meet like this.
Mm-hmm.
I can post, share it so that other people can also be updated about what's going on, but also it can be a little misleading sometimes too. So, but I can't mislead my students because they know how messy my classroom is. Like I've been cleaning here and they're all aware. And I told them in one of my sessions, I was doing a review session and I couldn't find something on my desk. And I said, I try to blame the kids. They're the ones that are messing up my room, but they're not here and I still can't find things. So who's really to blame?
That's funny. Yeah,
But
that's how I am. I'm like blaming my new coworkers, and I'm like, really my fault. Like, I just don't have motivation to clean. So
there's so many other things that can be done instead that are more fun.
that's right. Exactly.
Well, I really appreciate you taking time to catch up with us today, Crystal. It's been fun, and I do every once in a while get little updates through Micah when I see her.
Oh
But
yeah,
good
and
to
I
see you in
that's
person.
probably been my most fondest memory is Tommy and Micah. We're still close with them, and it's hard because we live miles and miles and miles apart, but we still text, and we still and like I said, we were in each other's weddings. Like, that's probably been my fondest memory there is walking away with lifelong friends who, and I'm so proud of them. I know they're prominent there in the community, and they've always, I texted them this the other day, they're always such a they're a big motivator for me and Jake. So super proud of them. Shout out to them. Super proud of them.
Yes. So we're referring to, Mr. Colbeth, who is principal at Washington School, and Mrs. Colbeth, who is a teacher at Adams School. I think she's 5th grade. Is that right?
Yeah. To my knowledge, that's where she was. Yeah. I don't think she's changed.
So anyway, yeah, my daughter Faith especially just adores Micah, and
because she was in her class, right?
yes, she was actually in Kitty City with Micah, and ended up Tommy and Micah did After Cats, or it was called Casper at Adams back then.
Yes.
And did that with them, and knew them then, and then got the fortune of having Miss Colbeth. So yeah, I should interview them too. I didn't have them in class, but I should interview them too. So well, thank you so much, and just continue to do the good things that you're doing. And so good to catch up. And if you happen to swing through Marion and you're catching up with Micah and Tommy, carve out a little time for me, and I will take you to dinner.
I will. I would love that. Jake's family's still in Illinois, so we still get up here. Yeah, so I'll definitely make that time.
Awesome.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
Thanks.
All right, talk